Hi, today we're here with Mr. Knight, discussing his government class, 12th grade.
That's right.
With seniors.
That's correct.
And appreciate Mr. Knight's time. He's been at Johnston High School for 15 years.
Yeah, we're partners.
Partners in crime.
That's
and
right.
Appreciate everything you've done. Have a few questions for you going into my observation when I come in. And like to start off with just briefly describe the makeup of your students, your class, and any special needs or things that goes on with that fourth period class.
Okay. Hello. Well, my fourth period, as you'll see, is my biggest one. So when we start talking about special considerations, it's 33 kids in a room that's pretty tight. So you have some space constraints. Inside that 33, I think I have 4 kids with 504s. So they have to kind of be put in a place where they have direct access to me. And it's kind of worked out. I didn't make a lot of deliberate movements of them. They kind of naturally sat in a place, and I've been able to get to them. So those considerations I have to take into account. I also have to take into account how to get 33 students ready to go.
Engaged.
Yeah, how do I get them ready to go so we don't have to spend a lot of time constantly, okay, it's time to get down to the task. So I do lots of different things. I usually just have a cue, and we work on it at the very beginning of the year, and the cue is good morning. So I always tell the kids when I say good morning, everything gets put away that's not supposed to be out. We've went over all the rules. It works to varying degrees. Sometimes we have to say good morning 2 or 3 times, and then they realize, but it's a pleasant call to order as opposed to, be quiet, everybody. Right, it's a gentle way to remind them, and some need more help with that. So
Right. Very good.
That's kind of some of the special considerations.
No, I appreciate that. We're going to go in next week, and we're going to watch your lesson.
Yep.
Can you just briefly talk about your goals of the lesson, what the lesson is, and what are you expecting the students to learn?
You know how teaching goes, right?
Yeah,
so
right,
the lesson that I think we might be looking at, it just depends on how it all gets timed out.
Yes.
But the lesson that I think we might be looking at next week is something on a straw poll. Like we're doing a little bit of a mock election. And so the idea is we've been working up to what a ballot looks like, how to register to vote. We've been doing all that voter participation piece. And then we're going to give the students a ballot, and the ballot has all of the Democratic candidates for president, and it has our Senate race and a representative district. And then the kids are going to pick from, there's probably 24 names for president.
Yeah.
And we're going to use that first round of voting as like a primary. We're not going to do the caucus just because at this point we're going to work on the primary piece. And from that point, we will filter. So the kids are going to get to come in and vote. And then as a class, they're going to count and tally their votes that day. And then we're going to go with all the other government teachers, the other 2 sections, and then we're going to figure out what the actual ballot for Johnston would be. So we're going to try to teach them the winnowing process. So how do you get from 17 down to 2 candidates?
17 Democrats. Yep.
Right. So how do we get down to a Republican and a Democrat?
A nominee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the kind of part that's unique is that each government class is going to do it, and then we're going to have to compare information from other government classes to produce the ballot.
Some questions I have for you as you go
talk
about that.
Yeah, I know this.
I
We're
don't
working
know.
on our technology.
Yeah,
here.
we're working on it. Hi, how are you? Sorry,
It's blinking at us. It doesn't like us
It's not
anymore.
responding, so we'll have to do a manual shift.
We might have to just do that.
Apologize. Anyway, so student engagement.
Yeah.
You've talked about that as your ippy-dippy
It is
goal.
one of my ippy-dippies,
And
yeah.
as you're talking about all this, I can think of a lot of different things in regards to like student participation within the class of
Yep.
voting. I mean,
Right,
that's
right,
a
right.
very rapid. Is that one of the reasons why you kind of went away from the caucus
Well,
and did the primary instead?
we've
even though
done-
Iowa does a caucus.
Well, kind of to let you in on a little secret.
Yeah.
We have a very kind of designed mini unit at the end of our semester because we have a weird break.
Yes.
So we go on holiday break, and then
Yes.
we have like a short unit. So we're going to do the caucus in a mini unit at the end of the year.
So it's fresh in their minds before the Iowa caucus.
Right.
on February
So
3rd.
right now
Makes
we're just
sense.
trying to get them to understand
Very good.
how does a ballot get the look that it gets.
Smart.
And most states are open or closed primary. We usually are open and closed primaries depending on the election.
Right.
So the caucus is just a really odd one. It's only for the presidential. So we got to talk them through that a little bit, and we've been working with that up to this point. So they have a little bit of background on it. But as far as participation goes, this is one area where they can be a little bit more active. They have to think about their choice.
Yeah.
Then their choice is going to get calculated right there in front. We're going to get to use, as you can kind of see in here, we have like a little table set up, right? There's tables all around.
Yes.
And so the theory is the tables will kind of become voting precincts.
Right. Oh, okay.
So then
Got
they
it.
will understand that the precinct's the smallest unit. Then from that smallest unit, they'll turn in their results. Then that precinct will turn in their results, and then we'll get the total count. And we might call it like Knight County, so they understand that the precincts feed the county, and then it'll be Hennis County and Dowell County, and then those counties will come together
cool.
to give us our actual ballot. So they get to see, we hope, some of the multiple layers that a lot of people don't focus on. They just show up and vote.
Very good.
So we're trying to get a little bit, if anybody was interested as a student to be, let's say, in government later, maybe they work as a county recorder, who the heck knows. But a lot of this stuff, some student might be interested in.
Plays out.
And they might
With their
decide, well, hey, I
adult-
remember doing that, and it wasn't that, I kind of liked it, and it was kind of fun. So the engagement piece is to try to get them to be a little bit more active. And it'll be tough in a room, as you guys will see, because the room's full. And not all students are, intrinsically motivated by by of doing a mock
Right.
vote.
Government can be a tough
Yeah.
challenge for a senior.
Yep,
That's-
and
yeah.
and that's just part of teaching. So I'm pretty good at sensing when I need to get involved, and hopefully you guys will be able to see some of my go-to moves, and then maybe we can see some of my go-to moves if they're really effective, or I just think they're effective.
Right.
Because I have
Right.
been teaching a long time, so sometimes you believe everything you do is good, and it's good to have somebody kind of give you some tips.
Mr. Knight and I have talked a little bit already in regards to what are some things I'm going to be monitoring. It is student engagement, but it's
Yep.
also going to be monitoring his movement in the classroom in regards
Right.
to how the students are engaged or not engaged, and monitoring that.
Yeah.
Along with other things.
Yeah,
go ahead.
If I was to, to throw in some of the teaching standards, like the idea of competent classroom management, I would hope would be apparent just by watching some of my moves and my tactics in the room. The idea of monitoring the learning, you're going to see me being active, I think. I have a tendency to move a lot around the room.
Yes.
And each table is going to kind of be on their own little group work, with me bouncing around. So the strategy for instruction will be seen kind of also play out there. And then hopefully my knowledge.
So it's not only just student engagement individually, but within their groups of the
Okay, yeah,
tables
I would say so,
involved.
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And that leads into my next question.
Yep.
And just so you know, I don't know if you can see this at home, but Mr. Knight has
Cheat sheets.
some cheat sheets, the standards. I printed off the standards for him and benchmarks. But so some of the things in question number 3, he's already answered is the supports of the district for the curriculum, and he's talked a lot about how he's going to interact with other classes. He mentioned
Yeah.
the name Hennis and Dowell, and those are other government teachers. But maybe can you elaborate a little bit more with how this interacts with the district curriculum?
Kind of like a collaboration goal, or you mean
A collaboration goal, the IPI-DIPI goal.
common class experience, common assessment, common format assessment.
Yes.
So this will lead nicely into, I would call this a formative assessment, in the sense that each class is going to get formatively assessed on how to participate in a vote, and they're going to see, we hope, they will understand that the vote is the first part, then the tabulation of the vote. How do you secure the vote? How do you then take what has been the people's voice and then turn it into the actual ballot for the general election? So to me, it's a strong collaborative piece amongst the teachers.
Yep.
And then it's a strong collaborative piece even amongst the students. And what we find a lot of times when we do these kind of common experiences, that the kids share with people that are in other classes, because their friends might be in another government class, and they're like, oh, we did this is how we did it. And so it kind of brings them together in a broader spectrum. So I would say that aligns nicely with what the district would want teachers to be striving toward.
A lot of things that I can think of as you're talking is their lifelong goals. You already talked about. Maybe somebody is going to want to be a county recorder, but also they just need to do this in their life, learning how to vote and the
Right.
process and,
Right.
and all the. And so that's a district curriculum standard. Most certainly would
Right.
be just the ability for a student to understand and engage and to be involved.
Yeah, civic responsibility.
Civic response.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's well said. Next question is, what are some difficulties with this lesson that you anticipate? Maybe not necessarily the students, but just Sounds like to me that you're trying to coordinate a lot
Yeah.
within a small period
Well,
of time.
I'll try to give you the visual.
Yeah. Ooh.
So this is what our kind of, it is back, it looks like it's reading it.
Right.
I don't know. But
Okay.
anyway, something like this. So if you look, not to confuse you all, but you can see it's going, I don't know why it's reading it backwards, but
Are those
these are all the presidential candidates, right? So
Democrat and Republican,
Yep,
correct?
right.
Okay.
And
Yep,
so,
I see it.
all this
Oh,
this
17,
ballot is
4,
going to
21.
be this is going to be a little confusing. And the good news is we already prepped them with the city and school board election ballot.
Right.
So they've already seen one. This ballot, on the other hand, is very, very confusing. And how in the world would they know who to pick, right? So, and we haven't come to terms on whether or not we want to try to have them do a little bit of research, because you can see the
Choices are
how
vast.
long that
Yes.
might end up. So there might be a little bit of variance between the teachers, just so we can test some different ideas on it. I know one instructor was planning on using the Iowa Secretary of State page, which has like a minute bio kind of on all the candidates, but then you're looking at 25 minutes. Are you going to be able
Yeah.
to get the vote done? So these are,
Right.
when you talk about like
45
choices that you
time.
have to make in 45 minutes, like can we just do a straight vote? Will the kids know enough? Will they just, I'm voting just because Mr. Knight's telling me to,
Fatigue voting.
Right. So with one of us maybe doing something a little different, we might be able to get a different view. But the problems to anticipate will be students will probably be like, well, I don't know enough to maybe make a legitimate vote. And so we'll have to try to coach them through that.
And Mr. Knight pretty much already answered the question. The next question is the instructional materials. Sounds like
Yeah.
that's a lot of it right there.
Yeah, and we did this leading up. This was
Kids
another
knowing the
thing that,
terms, yeah.
yeah, and I know it's not very exciting, voting vocabulary, but
Right.
we have about 30 different words.
I saw that the other day.
Yeah, to try to get common language going, because
Right.
there's a lot of stuff. News reports will say it some certain ways. Articles, I might use them, and they're like, we have no clue what's going on. So we try to get common language developed before we kind of get into maybe some of this. So.
Mr. Knight and I guess a good term is to geek out in government.
Yeah,
but
we had
both
some fun.
kind of have good conversations. Some of the conversations we have is in regards to the last election and the voting fatigue, or not even just the people not showing up, and
Yeah.
discussion of that. And so that's probably sometimes just the biggest thing is get involved with kids being involved within the lesson, or in this case, voting. The next question I have for you is that how do you know you're going to achieve your goal of kids understanding? And that's probably, yes.
Seriously, that's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
I can make up platitudes.
Right.
Certainly my younger teacher years, I would probably try to give, let's say, an administrative asking me this question of, like, it's going to happen,
Right.
And I remember once I said, well, I assume, and I remember administrator saying to me, well, you can't assume anything. So then I was like, okay, well, how do I know?
Right.
Well, I don't know if I'll know that day.
Okay, fair enough.
I wish I could say that day I nailed it 100%. I know they got
It's a
it.
snapshot.
But I think that it's part of a bigger piece. And so when you come in and you're looking at one piece of this unit, and we're working on trying to figure out what does a primary really mean.
Right.
How do you get from 17 candidates to one? This is kind of a part of a
Right.
process.
If they're able to navigate that.
Right,
and your
and
tools.
and they're starting to also figure out what does party mean.
Yeah.
Right, why is party so important in this one, and then the city election, party wasn't important.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of moving pieces, and to say that you could have success, I'll call success if we get through the vote, and we get it tallied, and we get it in the appropriate kind of organization. So it's kind of a procedural day.
Yeah.
In the sense that can they follow in mass group an efficient structure
Right.
to get not really a complex task, but it's going to have moving parts. So it's almost like a collaborative test of skills.
Okay.
So when we
That's
have to
good.
measure for like collaborative and productivity and stuff like that. So it's more of a day like collaborative productivity, because I can't really give them a score like, oh, you
No.
pick this candidate, you
No.
lose, right? Well, that's
Right.
not what we're about. We're trying to figure out, can you as a team get your vote certified, get it up on the board, get your voices heard in that way, and then can we transfer that data to another another teacher, and then bring them back the full sample. So
That makes sense.
success, too early to say.
Too early to say. Down the line, maybe the unit assessment,
Right.
something.
There will be a summative of some part.
And
Well,
maybe this tool in itself,
Yeah.
but there's always a variety of things that you can look
Right.
at for success.
Right.
To be honest, I think that's pretty much it. Is there, oh, nope, I lied. Teaching standards. Talk to me about
Okay.
it. I believe you were mentioning standard 2 and standard 3.
Yeah, well, standard's like a menu, right? So
Yes.
anytime I'm sitting down to eat dinner, they all look good. So when I start thinking
Right.
about a class, boy, I mean, I really start to talk myself up, right? So when I look at this, I'm like, I do this.
Yeah.
But I know it has to be a little bit more concrete. So to be honest, full disclosure, I wouldn't say I plan a lesson with my standards out in front of me. I'm just,
Right.
Full disclosure on that. But after I look at, let's say, a lesson, I mean, I already know I'm doing these things. So,
Right.
like, just
That
pick
makes
standard
sense.
2, like competent content knowledge. Yeah, I don't feel like I'm struggling in competent
No.
content knowledge. So I know I'm going to nail that standard.
Right.
And then when I go down to planning,
Sounds like you planned.
I plan, but it's one of those things that you can never be too prepared.
Sure.
And I would say that that's one pitfall for veteran teachers. Pitfall for a veteran teacher is to believe that they've already planned it. They did it in the years past. I
Good
don't
point.
need to get prepared
Yeah.
because I can do this in my sleep. And I think
Every
that
class
is
is different.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that can get you in a lot of trouble. I would like to say that I'm like a model in planning, but I know that I could improve there. So when
Sure.
I look at this document, this is one area I'd always pause, and it makes me think,
That's good.
did I really do that, or am I just thinking I'm better than I am?
That's
And
good.
we're really good at congratulating ourselves. So when we
Yes,
start
we
coming
are.
down and like strategies, multiple learning needs, this is a challenge. I mean, let's be honest, it's
With
a
the
challenge.
504s that you identified.
Heck yes, you got 504s, you got kids that have different levels of speaking English.
Do you have IEPs?
I don't think I have any IEPs in that class, but I have varied attention spans.
32 different seniors with
right?
many
And then
different needs. Yeah.
and you got kids that. So I mean, just the diverse, complex nature of teaching 33 young minds in one room. This is a huge one, and again. This is my go-to is going to be a very interactive instructor.
Good.
Like I'm going to be with them, so if I feel like somebody's needing a little prompt, I'm going to be over there. And that I would say to me my standard 4 and standard 5. So like strategies and management. I think strategies and classroom management have a lot in common.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
if I have good strategies, my classroom management
It's gonna be a lot
is
better.
going to be a lot
Right,
better.
If you don't,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
obviously.
it's always hard to be positive when you have kids that want to throw negative. So so that is definitely a skill that
Right.
I work on. And professional growth and professional responsibilities. We already talked about that.
Yep,
I mean,
yep.
so you can see it's covered, but whether or not I pull the lesson out and go through the standards, I don't have that practice. And
Very good. Thank you. You covered that well.
Yeah.
Anything that you want me to know before I go in? Anything else that pops up in your mind as you talk?
I don't know. Like I said, we do this lesson that you may or may not see. Just depends
On the day.
On the day,
Yep.
we may have done it, and then you just know how teaching goes. But what's different, I don't want to say different, is we have a new group of government teachers. We've been having some turnover
Yeah.
in the government, and so it's always interesting, when
The
you get
collaboration
when you
of
get new
others.
collaborative groups, good, bad, or indifferent, but it's been nice to get a new set of eyes, kind of
Yeah.
looking at it from a different way.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I'm pretty comfortable with what I do, and sometimes I need another voice.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's good.
So there
no,
you go.
I think that's good. Well, thank you for your time.
Hey,
I
you
very
bet.
much appreciate it, and look forward to coming next week.
Yeah, let's hope it goes well.
Thanks, man. All right. Beautiful.